Hey everyone, my name is Steven. I'm Protocol Cosplay, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new DS650s from HOTRC and how they're going to be very useful in Shadow RC moving forward. Let's get into it.
Wait! Wait! Oh my! What have you done?
Okay, so first of all, what are these remotes? This is the DS600 and this is the DS650. What are these? Well, these are small RC controllers. They have 6 channels. This one still has 6 channels, and this one has 6 channels as well. This is the DS600. They have 6 channels, they have a joystick, and they have 4 buttons. And the joystick operates on 2 channels. So left and right is 1, and up and down is 2. And they're great because this is the reason why I built Shadow RC the way I did was based around these controllers, specifically the DS600s, because that was all that I was aware of at the time. And they're great because they're handheld, they're nice, they work very well, and they are easily hidden, let's say, in a pocket or behind a shirt or something like that. And so you can just kind of discreetly control your droid just like this. And the DS600s have been great, but the DS650s improve on some things that are really cool. And I want to show you the differences between these two so that you can understand if you want to just go for the DS600 or the DS650. I kind of prefer these now that I just got them, but the DS600s have their place. And if you want something that is a little bit more streamlined and just not as much stuff going on, get the DS600. But if you want something that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more user adjusted, get the DS650. So let me give you a close up of what these two look like and the differences between them, and we'll go through it. Okay, so let's get into this. So this is the DS600. I have one by Apis Queen. I don't know, Apis Queen. And this is the base model. Now, HOTRC also makes one, and that's what this one is from. Although it doesn't say HOTRC, it says Have Key Bin. I'm not sure. These are honestly great little controllers, but there's a lot of variation in them. So this is the DS600. This is the base model. And as you can see, there's already a big change with the display up here. Ultimately, the set itself is pretty much the same. It's just utilizing a lot more space for the controller. So if you turn on a DS600, you'll hear that sound, and then you'll see a very standard kind of like a watch or, calculator display. And all that really matters on this display is this. This number here is the 3.9 volts. That's the voltage of the actual battery itself inside here. And once this drops to something like 3.6 or something like that, it'll start giving you an alarm saying that the battery is low. The other voltage here is something that you can plug into the receiver to check the voltage of another battery. So this is actually going to be pretty useful for many R2 builders to plug in the receiver, either both or just one of them, into your battery and see the voltage of the battery so that you can detect if it's low or not. So it's a very useful thing. You also see a lock function here. This is a little T that will have a couple of bars if it's connected to its receiver, which it's not right now. And then this is a mixing function, which is not actively being done, it's just there. So it's a really basic display. And it still works the same. You still get your left, right, up, down, and all that. And then you also get these buttons. And as you can hear, these buttons actually make a sound. And those buttons actually correspond, those sounds correspond to the button's state. So when you hear the high-pitched one, that means the button is in a high state, meaning that it's transmitting at around 2000 PWM or 2000, whatever the PWM unit is, but I just say 2000. And then when you hear the low sound right there, that means it's going down to 1000. And these three buttons, the 3, 5, and 4 channels, are what's called toggle switches, meaning that they stay in their high or low position until you press it. So it'll always stay high. Right now it's a high state, and now it's in a low state. But 6 is different. 6 actually is what's called a momentary switch, meaning that it'll go from low to high for as long as you're holding it. So if I press it quickly, you hear that little chirping. And that chirping just means that it's going from high to low, and it's based on how quickly I press it, which is good. But, you know, it does kind of, in HOTRC right now, the code is a little bit kind of biased because it basically says, okay, well, these ones have to be treated differently than number 6. And that's kind of weird. But you also hear that sound every time you press the button, and that can get a little annoying. And no, there is not a way to turn off the sound on the DS600s. You would have to open this up and cut the cable to the speaker if you wanted to do that, or desolder the speaker if it's soldered. I actually haven't ever taken these apart, but that's it. And then anything that you would want to do in terms of adjusting, which mine is locked right now, so I can't adjust it. The adjustments happen when you turn off the controller, then turn it back on while holding another button. So you might enter the calibration mode, or you might enter some mixing or unlocking or something like that. And it's all based on how you turn it on and what button you're holding, and then you press some other buttons and then you get it done. The manual for this is actually pretty good. It's not the best, and it definitely is not like an English is the first language they wrote this in sort of manual, but eventually you start to get the hang of it. And really, HOTRC is meant to work on the baseline functions. So there's not really anything in this controller that I would say you need to change in order for HOTRC to work. This, however, is the new DS650. And the DS650 has a lot of adjustments to it. For starters, when you turn this on, you'll see that it's a nice, somewhat high resolution display showing channel 1, channel 2, all the button channels. You still have your 3.9 volt, but you also have a battery indicator and stuff like that for the main battery. You have your transmission signal up here, but that TXV right there is the voltage of the internal battery on this actual controller. And then you also have your RXV, which is the same as this one down here. So if you want to plug in your battery to the actual controller receiver, you can do that, and you can monitor your battery from here. Let me turn this off. Okay. But as you heard, when I turn this on, this does not have sound. And if you hear me press a button, it does not sound because there's a menu to turn it off. Hooray! So yes, you can turn off the sounds on this, or you can turn them back on. But as you probably saw on the display, you actually get some really good feedback as to what the controller is doing now that you don't have any sound. So if I push channel 1 this way, so you can see that little bar rises, and you see the number on there change from 1500, which is neutral, to 1000, which is low end. And then if I push it the other way, it goes to 2000, which is high end. Great little feedback to see, like, am I actually transmitting properly? Yes, I am. Okay, good. Same thing with channel 2. You go down, goes down to 1,000. Up goes down to, or up goes to 2,000. And then the little buttons on here, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are the buttons down here. So if I push one, you'll see that it's doing that momentary switch, right? So it's staying at a high state, and I press it, and I hold it, and I release, and you see that it goes to the lower state. That is because I've adjusted the buttons to be to work this way. So all the buttons now are toggle, or rather momentary switches, which is great because this means that I'll be able to put into HOTRC more combos. So if you're holding down channel 3, and let's say this is my other controller, if you're holding down channel 3 and you press another button on here, that'll create another combo. Right now, combos rely on the joystick being held in a position, right? So if you're in mode switch, you pull this joystick down to activate it, and then you press a button on this controller here to mode switch. Now I can do that with all the buttons. So I can press and hold 3 and hit all these 4. Then I can do 4 and all these 4. And basically what that means is that we now have double the amount of combos on each controllers, from 32 to 64 combos that can be adjusted depending on if you're pressing and holding a button or if you're pushing and holding a joystick command. So that's great. So let me show you real quick on how you would adjust the buttons to do what they're doing, because when they come to you, it's going to be in this kind of mode of what this was, right? Where these are toggle switches and then one momentary switch. So what it actually has is it has a menu. So if you press this button here, you enter a menu. And it's a little confusing. This is basically up and down of pages, right? So you can go up, down on pages. Then you select with the button. Then you go back to this and you go up and down that page, right? Then you select with this again. Now, the place in which you would want to look for, the first menu is reverse. You can basically set channel 1, 3, 5, 6, whatever. You can set that to reverse. So instead of being in a neutral state or a low state or something like that, if I press this way, it basically reverses it and sends this to 2,000 rather than 1,000. I wouldn't recommend changing any of that unless you're really confident and whatnot. But if I go out and I see this one that says button type, and I select that one, now you can see that the channel 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all set to normal. Now, where it'll come to you, if you select it and then you select up and down with this, what it'll come to you is channel 3, 4, and 5 will be in what's called 2 POS, which means 2 position. And if you go out to the main thing, and now that I've set 3 to 2 position, and if I just click it, now you're seeing that 3 is sitting in a low state, and now it's back to high. Now it's behaving like this one usually does, where it changes from high to low based on when you press it. Whereas 4, 5, and 6 are all doing that quick change in that single position. So what you would want to do is you would want to go into the menu. Once you get this, you would want to go into the menu, scroll down to the second page, select button type, and then you would see 2 POS on all these. You would select that channel, then you would go to normal. And once you set it to normal, it'll behave like a quick little toggle switch, or rather a momentary switch. So that's what I would suggest doing. Now, there are a lot of other settings that can be gotten into, like mixes, cruise control, bind. This is where you would actually bind the controller to your receiver. It doesn't do it automatically as much. You have to actually go into the bind settings and start a binding process so that this controller binds with one of the receivers, but it's not very hard to do. You also get RX info in terms of like that secondary battery that you're plugging into. This can kind of give you an idea of when you should when you want your alarm of this. So once this can give you an alarm at a certain voltage. So you can set your voltage to something low where your battery is getting low. And then this will give you an alarm indicating that the battery is low on that. I haven't really gotten into that, but it's something that is here. The fail safe is actually really nice. This is where you would set, and I haven't set error, receiver, disconnect, and all that. Obviously, it's not connected to a receiver right now, so it doesn't matter. But this is where you would set what the channel should do if it loses connection. And generally, what you would just want is that it, stops all the motors and does all that. And it's what it's set up to do right now. But, something very nice to be able to play with your fail safes. And then you've got ESC, which I do not believe the ESC is more like the throttle. So ESC doesn't mean like an ESC controller that you would get for the hub motors. This is more the throttle. So the TH delay means that this is a throttle delay. So if I push this up, let's just quickly do a test of this. So let's say I put this up to, hold on, let me figure out how to change this value. There we go. Let's say I put it up to 50%, right? So I've selected throttle delay 50%. And if I go back to the end and I slam this up real quick, you can see that it gradually went up to 2000, right? So let me do that again. Boom. And now it's gradually going up to 2000 rather than slamming like this. And if I go down, does the same thing, right? The throttle goes down. Whereas this one, boom, I can smack this into, 1000 very quickly. But now I can throttle delay and I can move it back and then I can move it forward. And it'll slowly ramp up. Now, you may want this for your droid. Let's say you don't want your droid to just take off running as soon as you push it forward. It's a good and helpful little thing to kind of design your own throttle adjustment into the controller. Now, I don't really need that. I might put like a couple of percentage points on that just so I can get going pretty quickly. But I'm pretty careful about, starting the droid. So it's up to you. If you feel like you're like, oh yeah, I just really like to push it forward and get going, but I don't want it to do a wheelie. so I need a little bit of throttle adjustment. Go for it. You've got that ability in this controller. So let me go back down to that and reset that. Back down to 0 for now. And again, play with it. There's also a braking. So if you, these up from center and down from center is the braking function. So if you, for instance, go really quickly upward and then you pull it back down, the braking, like if you're going forward, and then you want to brake, right? And you go like that. The up, down, and whatnot controls that level of ramping so that you don't go, and stop on a dime. You kind of ease down if you want to by a certain percentage, and the same with up, down, and all that kind of stuff. So really nice little calibration to have if you feel like you're kind of a jittery person and you don't want to ruin your droid. Put some easing on it, and that should help. So the rest of the menus, I think, after that are, this is just the joystick calibration, reset, and the system information, which if you go into system information and you say system set, this is where you can choose not only the language, but also the sound and your auto off and your lock. So if I were to, I changed that to Chinese. So if I were to hit sound, now I've got sound, now I don't. If I were to hit the auto off, this would select, whether it turns the controller automatically off. And if I want to lock everything because I've got it dialed in and I don't want anything adjusted, I can set it to lock and you'll see a little lock. So in terms of Shadow RC, that's pretty much it. You can set this to your desires and your feelings, but if you're going to use the 650, I would definitely change the buttons all to be toggle or momentary switches so that you can benefit from a long press, and maybe that does something. But certainly a long press combined with another press on a button on the opposite controller opens up double the amount of combos that you're going to get able to work with. So I really like the new controller. I really like how it's formatted. I really like the display. It gives me some very good feedback on things. It does seem to be even just a little bit better of an actual like joystick inside here, because if you can see that change right there, it changes right from 500 and it's pretty damn accurate. These I think have a bit of a dead zone in them. So this one I really do think is more accurate than this one in terms of its joystick overall. So that is the new DS650, and I definitely will be using them in my build, and Shadow RC will be getting an update for that very soon to apply the button settings and to allow for that button long press combo thing to be working as well. Okay, everyone. So that is my sort of rundown of the new DS650. There's a lot more that you can get into on the DS650 in terms of control and stuff like that. Not really useful for me because there are things like this button here, which is cruise control. And cruise control you don't want, because you don't want your droid just autonomously rolling away on you. But there are some other settings in here that is more tailored to things like boating or driving a car, or an RC car or something like that. This is what these controllers are mainly used for, is like boating and things like that, or RC boats and such. But this is a really great upgrade to the old DS600s. Just the fact that you can change the button state, you can turn off the sound, and you can fine tune some of the acceleration and deceleration of the actual PWM signal, which means that regardless of what my code does to push the droid forward or to keep him safe or anything like that, you know that you can just quickly dial in some settings on your controller and it will take over all of that kind of fine tune adjustments that you're getting, and you don't have to come to the code itself to make some fine tune adjustments like you don't like its acceleration or this or that and stuff like that. So really great upgrade here. I highly recommend you pick one up and then start working with it. I will start working with it soon. Shadow RC will be updated to accept this version of the controller here soon. It'll come out as a version, right? So it'll be like the standard version, DS650 version. Whereas the standard version, DS600 version, is the one that uses this, because like I said, the buttons behave differently on this one versus this one. So it's a really good upgrade. I'd say I highly recommend it. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Also, the second run of Shadow RC V2 is going to be running. It's running until, let me check my date here. It's going to run until this Wednesday, which at the moment of this recording, that is the 22nd of August, or October, 22nd of October. So it's going to run until the 22nd of October. I would really like to get about 10 more people in on the run just to make that run really worth it to source all these parts. We've got about 20 right now. So if you want to get in on that run, fill out the form in the description below and get in on that second run. After that, I think it's going to go into like general sales, like individual sales, which is a little bit more expensive than a run price, but you're still going to be able to get a board when you want to. So get in on the run, check out the new DS650s, and I will see you guys in the next one.